What's up, college baseball fans? Welcome to another episode of the 11.7 podcast. Jack is MIA right now, early morning recording, so he might hop in here in a second. But Dimitri's here live from Italy, and man, we're gonna do a quick little midweek recap. There were some big moments this midweek, some teams that had some much-needed wins, and some teams like Utah who loses to Utah Tech, and pretty much takes away like their at-large picture. They dropped like 17 spots in the RPI. But we'll bounce around a little bit. We'll end the show with our weekend series pick'em. Should be a pretty short show, 45 minutes to an hour. Obviously, I guess if you're listening to it already, you know the timetable. But man, we're really just trying to get prepped for the postseason. That's kind of where we make, that's our bread and butter, right? Like that's when we really go full out. So the the cool thing is we have a lot of cool storylines to talk about. Obviously, we got the home run race going on. Cags put himself back in the conversation for Golden Spikes when Condon was running away with it, and he still might be. There's some good other stories too. The one thing that I want to start with, and we didn't even talk about this in our pre-show prep, but dude, how does Indiana State every year just somehow have the algorithm to break the RPI? I was doing like some real intense Illinois or not Illinois State. I'm sorry, Indiana State. I was doing some real Indiana State research, looking through their schedule, looking through their stats. Personally, I think last year's team was much better. But you look around at everybody's field of 64 projections coming out. And dude, they're like solidified host right now, like at 9 RPI, which is nuts. So I'm digging through it. I'm like, all right, how do they do this? Dude, their schedule's not that hard, to be honest. Like they played some tournaments early in the year and beat like USF and Louisville and
UConn.
somebody. Yeah, like some pretty good teams, but not like the Arkansas or the A&Ms, Tennessees, things like that. So if I'm a college baseball program, I'm hiring Indiana State's head coach because he seems to like every year they do this. Like every year Indiana
He's
State is
Cliff
in.
Godwin. It's the Cliff Godwin playbook.
Yeah, exactly. Cliff Godwin at ECU does the same thing. Like they play in not great conferences. The American Conference, top to bottom, is pretty bad. There's some good teams in there, but nothing like the SEC or ACC. And Indiana State's doing the same thing in the Missouri Valley for like the 5th straight year. Like I honestly think, like, I'm not trying to blow smoke here. I think they probably have some like data scientist that builds this schedule and says like, all right, this will be good enough for a 12 RPI. We'll host.
But your schedule depends on how good other teams are. So what if like out of nowhere, I don't know, Purdue is all of a sudden, oh my God, this team is so good. We didn't mean to schedule this team so like such a good team like this. Or you have Miami who's awful, and you're like, oh, we scheduled Miami, the RPI booster. So it's like,
Right.
how do you decide which teams are good and how to do it? I think it should play a good balance, well researched, balanced road schedule in the beginning of the year, whether it's a
I
neutral
mean, I
site
guess that's
or on
what
the
it
road.
has to be. Yeah, I guess that's what it has to be. But look, I got the RPI pulled up. Shout out to everybody that's subscribed to our YouTube channel. Really appreciate that. If you're not on YouTube, you're still listening to the podcast. That's great. That's what we do. First 5 seasons we just did podcasts, but now we're on the YouTube as well. Anyways, so look, one through we have 1 through 13 pulled up on the RPI. And there's one team that just stands out, and it's Indiana State, right? Like you get
No,
A&M,
two.
Kentucky, Arkansas, Clemson, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida State, Tennessee, Indiana State at 9, East Carolina 10. But like at least East Carolina plays super tough midweek games once a week because they have a plethora of Carolina schools they can play against in the ACC.
But wait,
Um,
but wait. Indiana State has played a much tougher schedule than East Carolina. I know the strength of schedule says East Carolina, but look at the quad one. All right, quad one, 4 wins or 9 game. East Carolina 6. Quad two, Indiana State 6, East Carolina 11. And then look at this. East Carolina's got 21 quad 4 games, but Indiana State's got 18 quad 3. And you see what I mean? Like, it's just so interesting how East Carolina's strength of schedule is so much higher. But when you look at the numbers, they played a lot weaker team.
Yeah, I mean, they're grouped though. Quad 1, quad 2, quad 3. Like everything's grouped differently. So, for example, like Indiana State might have played better quad 3 games than East Carolina. You know what I mean? They could be off
Okay,
balance because it is grouped by 50s
15.
or 100s.
East Carolina only played 2 more quad 1 and quad 2 games combined. 11, 6, 17, 9, 6, 15. Yeah, 17, 15. There was just 2 more games. And they're a whole 14 spots higher in the strength of schedule.
Yeah, but I'm saying like East Carolina might have played RPI 285, and that's a quad 4 game. Meanwhile, Indiana State might have played RPI 130, and that's still a quad 4 game. So like those will add up since it is grouped. That's why I don't really like the quad. I mean, I get the
No,
quad.
quad 3. Isn't quad 3 100 to 160
Oops.
or whatever?
Quad 3 at home is 51 to 100.
You're right.
Neutral
I see it.
81 to 160. Away 121 to 240. But anyway, so my whole point of bringing this up first on the show, and I know we kind of drug this out a little bit, but let's just go through Indiana State's schedule, right? Like they're 14 and 1 at home, which is really good. 14 and 9 on the road. But look, Louisville, UConn, USF. This was a neutral site
What's their neutral
tournament.
record?
What?
What's their neutral site record?
6-0. Because they swept through that USF tournament. They swept through the Snowbird Classic, also in Florida, where they beat Michigan State and Marshall. And it's like, all right. So in this middle column, you can see the RPI teams they've played: 57, 44, 141, 137, 102, 200. And it's like, all right, that's like for them, a pretty easy schedule, right? I know they played Vanderbilt in the midweek, but they lost. They played at Southern Miss 2 out of 3. They win on Sunday. So they lose that series against Southern Miss. And like these 4 games are really, really big on the RPI because they went 1 and 3, but they were all on the road. So they're all quad 1 games, which helps the RPI. But then this is where it gets interesting. At Florida A&M, 205 RPI, they sweep. Illinois at Xavier, and then home against Indiana, and then conference play starts. Missouri State, Purdue, midweek. Like, so what I'm saying is like this middle column, I don't understand how they have a 9 RPI because like the strength of schedule, I know they're winning games and they played the non-conference on the road and they got a good Xavier team who has a 33 RPI, but like they just won 2 out of 3 there. It's not like they swept. So my point is, I think there is a way to crack the code at the RPI. And you know what I
Like,
mean?
look
Does
here.
that make sense? Like
Here's a
compare
good
that
example.
schedule,
Go back.
compare
Go back.
that schedule to like a I don't
Look
know,
at
like a
South Carolina. Look at South Carolina. 12 and 12 quad 1. Okay, and they're 5 spots behind Indiana State.
right. That's what I'm saying. Like South Carolina has obviously played a much harder schedule than Indiana State, just because of the SEC and everything. And like, so my point is, SEC teams are able to go play non-conference schedules. Like A&M does it every year. Tennessee does it. South Carolina did it this year, where they're playing nobodies. Miami, Ohio, Belmont. I know South Carolina played 2 against Clemson, but they were both they lost both of those games. So that like honestly should not help them, but it does. Anyways, the reason why I bring all that up, and like I'm not trying to knock on Indiana State at all. Like I like Indiana State. I think it's going to be a sick summer, but dude, 2 reasons. One, the committee does not watch college baseball. Like they might watch 1 or 2 games a week, and they've been pretty open about that in the past. I know there's new committee members this year, and there has been more harp on, let's try to watch more games. Let's try to get more involved. But in the past, like they just don't watch games. Like they watch their school and their school, whoever they play. Um, and then they really just rely on the RPI. Now this year, there's something called the KPI that will also be presented to them when they're in their conference room deciding regional hosts. And at-large teams and building the bracket. What's up, Jack? Love the
Squat.
Astros jersey.
Yeah, I'm sad. Some might say I overslept because I was too busy crying myself to sleep last night because I'm fed up with it. Others just might say I was so excited to see you guys this morning.
Howdy,
Love that.
sir.
Well, you walked in right as I'm just like, I'm not complaining about the RPI because I've done that for the last 5 years. I'm just more interested in like how some of these teams every single year, Indiana State, East Carolina, they crack the code for the RPI. I was going to swing back around and say like a team like Lamar is outside looking in on the bubble right now. They've won 40 games. They've swept Oklahoma, who's winning the Big 12, and they're like 70 RPI. And like some would say, like they have much better wins than a team like Indiana State or like Nebraska. So
Well, Lamar has 30 quad 4 games.
right, but like my point is, you don't know how your schedule is going to shake out. You just don't. A team like Lamar might have thought that they could schedule a lot better. And like, let's look at their schedule right now. They're 36-10. They're going to win 40 games. Like they probably, I don't know. They've played Baylor and A&M.
Look. They did the same thing as Indiana State. Scroll up a little bit. Neutral site tournament midweek against a decent team, and then another tournament.
So they did the exact same schedule as
Pretty
Indiana
similar.
State. They just, I mean, they've
They don't
scheduled
have
UT
Xavier and
Arlington,
Southern Miss.
Maryland, Eastern Shore, or Baltimore County, whatever it is, and then Pacific. And then they get into conference play. But like this sweep against Oklahoma at Oklahoma speaks louder to me than like anything else like Indiana State has done. So that's just kind of like the unbalancedness of the committee and relying heavily on the RPI. But the second point I was going to make is, dude, at the end of the day, like the RPI is heavily, heavily favoring the ACC and the SEC. I mean, just look, we have teams like Oklahoma who's winning their conference, the Big 12, a good conference by 3 games, and they're behind South Carolina, Alabama, who's 10-14 in the SEC. Wake Forest is 12-12. They're ahead of them, and like I don't know. It's just it kind of frustrates me this time of year because I do look at everybody's field of 64 projections. We do our own field of 64 projection, and it's like, man, it would be so much easier if there was a much better tool than the RPI. But I know at the end of the day, RPI usually figures itself out the last part of the year. I'm just more interested in how some of these teams every single year, these mid majors, crack the code because that's like as valuable, dude. Cracking the code at this RPI is more valuable than recruiting a good team. Like, it really is at this point. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, come on. You still need a good team in order to crack the code.
Yeah, but
You're basically insinuating that Indiana State is not good.
The team will recruit itself if it sees, like, hey, we've been in the NCAA tournament the last 7 years.
Correct, but you got to have a good team in order to have a good RPI. Now, you can improve your RPI with that code cracking that we're discussing right now. You can take your team from a 3 seed every year at large, like 30 to 40 RPI range, to, oh my God, we're in the hunt to host every year. We're in the hunt to host.
Like, take a
East
team like
Carolina's
Mercer.
hosting every single year.
Yeah, East Carolina, like Coastal Carolina is, but okay. Oh, this was another big point. The Sun Belt will not have a team that is going to host. Like,
Right.
it is done. Like, nobody is going to host out of the Sun Belt, which is sad. But it's like, dude, they've played, in my opinion, a much tougher schedule than a team like Indiana State and even like East Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, East Carolina is not going through the gauntlet of the Sun Belt. So that's why I'm saying, like, these schools, Indiana State especially, East Carolina is in that same conversation. Coastal has kind of been in that conversation. Campbell the last couple years before they moved to the CAA, but they have cracked this code of the RPI, and I think that's more valuable than having a coach that's going to recruit through his, like, recruit the best team.
Yep.
Because a team will recruit itself if you're constantly in NCAA tournament. Players will flock to you.
Clip that. Here's the beautiful point in what you're trying to say too is I feel like when you look at East Carolina and Campbell, like they cracked the code because like they really have no choice in the midweeks. Like they just go play top 25 teams every single Tuesday, Wednesday of the year. So like that's their code breaker. It's really not that hard to go. But even when you look at like we talked about James Madison, I feel like Riz got bottom up a month ago. Like, what did they do to be 22nd in the RPI? Like, and you're just kind of curious. Now, when you look at the week in and week out of the Sun Belt, it's so much more difficult than Conference USA or the ASUN or whoever else like we've kind of thrown shots at, whether it be DBU or Coastal ECU not having too tough of a conference slate. But man, getting to know and like talk to a ton of these coaches, like I'm not going to sit up here and like try to pretend like to be this huge nerd. I would be willing to bet it's like 80-20 that these coaches like resoundingly hate the RPI. And that's from coaches who like are being benefited by it as well, whether it comes down to seeding. But I don't think you're alone in that stance.
Yeah. At the end of the day, my little rant I went on, it doesn't matter. Like things aren't going to change immediately. This might be 4 years down the road. But I'm also receptive. So if you're a genius out there, or if you're somebody that has studied the RPI and like want to give me an explanation, I will absolutely take it full force. Like I would love the feedback. I just think there is a way that this RPI is cracked, and there's a few schools that are doing it every single year.
Can we talk about how Travis Bazzana and Jack Caglianone and Charlie Condon were all projected top, let's just say top 10 picks? They're all three, I think, outperforming expectation.
100%. Yeah, it's nuts this year because for the first time, at least since I can remember, and I've gotten really big into the draft. Like I've been researching past drafts, this draft especially. Was looking through high school guys, but the interesting thing about this draft, I can make a case for 7 guys to go number 1 overall. And Cleveland has the first domino in what I think is going to eventually like figure itself out. But like they have an option to like take a guy like a JJ Weatherholt, possibly number 1 overall, who might sign for way less money. And because they have a second pick, I believe, in the first round. So they might not necessarily take the Condon or the Cags or whatever. But between like to start the year, JJ Weatherholt was the number 1 prospect through multiple different sites. Like he was the guy everybody was looking into. And then it comes out, it's like, oh, well, Condon's having this unbelievable year. We've never seen it before. He might hit 40 homers. Cags is continuing what he did last year. Hagen Smith is like putting up Paul Skeen's numbers and unbeatable on Fridays in the SEC. You have Braden Montgomery, a switch hitter, transferring from Stanford, goes straight into the SEC and has 25, 26 homers. Like there are so many guys that, and Travis Bazzana is another one who, like some places had him as the number 1 overall prospect and still do. It's nuts this year, guys. Like this is the first MLB draft where it's college heavy and like college superstars that are ready for a quick MLB debut.
22 guys have 20 plus homers this year. 22 guys have 20 plus homers this year, with a whole nother 10 of them that have 19.
Yeah, we're gonna have 50 plus guys hit 20. It's funny. I was looking at 2016, the year that Coastal won the College World Series. They led the nation in homers, and I think they had 100 and no, maybe 97 or 103. Jack sent me an Instagram DM yesterday showing that Austin P already has 135 as a team. And remember, Coastal played 71 games because they played all the way through the regionals, super regionals, and the last game of the College World Series. And I don't think they hit 100.
Dude.
The reason why I pulled up 2016 was because that was the year Mercer, like my team, was leading the country in homers through pretty much the whole season. We finished with 93. Coastal passed us up in the College World Series. So, and that was like Kyle Lewis hit 20, and that was a big freaking deal. A huge deal.
So
So
can we get into it a little bit? Because I've been shielding off haters all year that have who are former players, so like they know what they're talking about. Are the balls juiced or like what's happening? Because I've defended it and said these dudes are bigger and stronger and faster than ever before, and guys on the mound are throwing harder. So like it doesn't like you're allowing that guy to supply the power. But did you see the Cags homer to left field the other day? Like,
oh
like
man.
what's happening right now?
Right. So the lazy answer, and I've done some digging into this as well. The lazy answer is like, oh, balls are juiced and bats are hotter than what they were when BB Core first came out. And it's like, okay, yeah, of course. Like, of course, these bat companies have found ways to improve technology so that their bats still meet the BB Core certifications and the testing, but they're just better. The sweet spots may be bigger, or whatever. I think like a more in-depth answer here is you're right, Jack. Like players are bigger, faster, stronger than they were, even like 5 years ago. Like player development is going through the roof. A second thing, I think, and I touched on it a couple podcast episodes ago, pitching's not as good. Like we have guys just sitting fastball hard, like 94 down the middle, where, when I was playing in 2017, like my senior year, everybody was a pitch mix guy. They located well, and they like refused to throw the ball in the inner third of the plate. Another thing that I think possibly gets into it is, I just completely forgot my train of thought. There was one more point I had. I should have wrote it down,
You,
but
you were getting ready to go on a tangent. I had a lot of people hit me up and go, "Hey, dude, pitching really just sucks these days, huh?" From like former pitchers. And I was like, he's not wrong, man. Like it
dude,
was, I
it's just
thought it
not.
clean. Like,
Maybe not suck, but I don't think I ever used the word. Maybe I did say the word suck. I think I did actually, but they're
I
not
mean,
pitching anymore, man. They're just throwing,
yeah.
and it does bother me a little bit, but
we have like
whatever.
18 or 19 teams, maybe 20 teams that are going to finish with more than 100 homers on the season.
Dude, what's happening? Even like when you look at like the top guys on that list, like individually, they're all like shattering records too. Like, did
Yeah.
UNC Wilmington the other day? He broke the Wilmington record. He's got a shot to break the CAA record.
I mean, how the hell is a school like Utah Valley putting up 98 homers? I mean, Morehead State, we know their field, like it's probably home run happy, but I mean, like USC Upstate is not a big old bopping power home run hitting team. They're about to break 100. Murray State, the 89. Like Mercer, we played in the bandbox, and we were always top 5 in the country in homers. Not because we were the best hitting team, it's just we played in a tiny ballpark, and our hitters learned how to hit home run in situations. Man on first, the second hit is a home run, the 3-run homer. So you learn how to play to your field advantage, but these are ridiculous. Some of these numbers are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the exact same list I pulled up. I pulled up the 2016 version, and it was like the 10th place team had like 79 homers. And anyways, so I was also looking through like the all-time home run records, and Pete Inclavilia leads the all-time home run record for a single season. He hit 48, I believe, sometime in the 90s.
That
There
was
was
a
a
trampoline
period
back.
during 1997 that I was doing research on where like Troy Gloss, Lance Berkman, and like one other guy are all top 5. They hit 41, 40, and 39. And they were using -5 bats, like drop 5 bats back then. Like we're about to have Charlie Condon in the drop 3 era, which is a huge difference. Because think about it, Lance Berkman was probably swinging at 34-29.
That's
Like,
terrifying.
go
It
give
kills.
Charlie Condon a 29-ounce bat. He's getting 500-foot homers. So like this 2024 season is on pace to break every single 1997 record where these guys were playing way more games. Like they were playing 60 plus games, and they were using drop 5 bats.
Guy, I need Cags to hit 3 or 4 home runs this weekend. Be one, like 2 or 3 back. Condon has none this weekend. I want to enter the final weekend in regional where they're in literally a home run race till the end.
So Dimitri, will you hold the regular season belt as higher than like if they both make regional runs? Like, because what if God forbid like Florida finds a way to get in and they send them to Athens and we get both of those guys in a regional because
Well,
it
they
could be
wouldn't.
a possibility.
No, they
I
can't
mean,
do that. They're both
yeah,
SEC.
yeah, but like okay, maybe a super. How about a super? Like
Super.
Florida runs through. and we get both of those guys playing like deep in the postseason, and they both go for 40. Because I think 40 would be such a cool number to hit.
How many did Condon hit last year in the regular season?
25.
25. Oh my God, not even close. Not even close. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, but even if you look at some, let's see, strikeout per game, or strikeout. I mean, Arkansas here. I mean, I'll share this, but like it just shows you.
What are we looking at here? Strikeouts per 9?
Yeah. So like, just look at like 12, 11, 11, 11, 10, 10. Like, I'd have to cross-reference it with some of the past years, but I feel like people are striking out more and hitting more homers.
Yeah,
No in
I
between.
mean, and we're used to that, right? Like the MLB has kind of adopted that over the last decade. Like a home run is way more valuable than what a strikeout does negatively.
Here we go.
So,
Here we go. Strikeout to walk ratio. Yeah, I mean,
Those are crazy numbers.
you know what's funny? How many of these teams are on the home run list? Tennessee,
A&M,
Oklahoma, Tennessee, and A&M, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State's on there.
There are a couple teams on there that like do any of those teams surprise you at all? Like at Nebraska, maybe playing into the Big Ten style of play. But then when you look at LSU's body as a whole, right? Like, are we surprised that their arms have thrown as well as they have? I think where they struggled a lot this year was, they were getting really quality starts out of Holman and Jump, and then they just ran out of arms on Sunday, and that's where they were like really struggling early on in the season. Did you guys watch Cam Little of LSU last weekend in that outing against A&M? He went and got a 10 out save, so 3 1/3. And Little was a guy who early on in his LSU career was nasty as hell, 98 with an 89-mile-per-hour slider. And then last year, championship run, just like kind of struggled mentally. Like it just like, the game became a little bit too fast. Dude, he looked like Chase Burns the other night. Like, and you're like, we forgot about this. I don't know if y'all saw that outing. He was filthy. So like,
no, I saw it.
He's like Griffin Herring. Like they've been crazy as hell.
Yeah, no, I saw it, and he transferred the same season Tommy White transferred to LSU. Christian Little was this huge high school prospect, went to Vanderbilt, pitched a lot his freshman year. He was almost a bigger like transfer portal guy for LSU than Tommy White going into last year. And something fell off. I don't know if it was injury or working with mechanics, but like he had a pretty bad year last year. Very, very underwhelming. But like he could be that like Ty Floyd this year for LSU. Figure it out late in the season and just run with it. Like become a solidified weekend starter. If you can throw him on Sundays and he looked like he did, I mean, he's definitely a big piece. LSU's still fighting for that at-large spot, but I'll tell you this: that weekend series win over A&M holds a lot of weight in the eyes of the committee. They will look at that and say, "We want the reigning champion in." If they can get 13 SEC wins, like I think they're in.
You better have that same energy for Florida then.
No, I do. I think Florida's a tournament team.
I think they're absolutely a top 25.
Now the tricky part with Florida is I don't think you can become an at-large team and have a below 500 record.
No, I've said it all year.
Can't.
I've said all year. I think that they're unbelievable. I think that like they have the most talent in the country. I think they have maybe the greatest college baseball player of all time. Now, Florida fans, turn off the mics. I don't think they're a tournament. Like they just haven't won games, man. Like their record is horseshit. Like they're
You
not.
say
good.
that they do also have a series win over A&M.
I know. Yeah, early.
No, dude, stop. Florida is a tournament team. But you got to put them in some gauntlet of a regional, some 16 to 15 seed that barely got in as the regional host because somebody else couldn't get the job done at the end of the year. So they got the job. That's where Florida needs to go. It needs to be a gauntlet. And I hope the committee makes it a point saying, hey, we're putting these guys in, but their road to Omaha is going to be nearly impossible.
But
like that's the way it should be.
But how do you do that without like, this is going to sound like I hate every other conference. But like, if you're going to throw them the gauntlet, how do you do that without sending them to an SEC regional? Because they won't. But like, how do you like?
Yeah.
You easily can. South Carolina could be a 15 seed, but you can't send them to South Carolina. I'm just using that as an example. It could be like an NC State, or it could be I don't know, it's one of those teams where that they barely got in because some other fringe host team couldn't finish the job at the end of the year. They get the hosting spot. You send Florida there, and you get cheap clout.
Yeah, but like, think about it from a Vegas perspective. If Florida went to like NC State and they went to Raleigh, like, what would the line be? Like, they'd be massive favorites.
But you're proving our point again that Florida, you're scared sending Florida to a team like that. You think they're good. I mean, you think they're good.
Yeah, I know. I said I think they're unbelievable. I think they have the greatest college baseball player of all time, but I don't want to reward them for being like playing like shit on you.
Hey, usually I'm in the same boat with you where like, hey, regular season should matter. Like, you should win your game. But it's like, dude, they're the difference between just a bad team and a name brand team that's really bad. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'll tell you this: if you're an LSU fan, you hope that Florida makes the NCAA tournament, because right now, Florida does have one more SEC win than LSU. And on the YouTube, we have it pulled up. LSU 9-15 in the SEC, and Florida 10-14. Florida also has a series win over LSU, right? So they really have technically like a 2-game lead over LSU. And so LSU's got to hope Florida continues to play well so that they can both get in. Because if they finish with very similar resumes, Florida's going to get in over LSU.
Hey, how about that? Would you guys say midweeks in the state of Florida are much more difficult than midweeks in the state of Louisiana?
Well, I mean, with Louisiana, you also have to factor in Mississippi, like a Southern Miss. You also have to factor in, like, they play a lot of Texas teams midweek.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, I think what it comes down to, besides the head-to-head and that one extra SEC win, Florida's midweeks. Let's just say they win 4 of those midweeks that they've lost. They'd be 29-19, very similar to LSU's overall record. So it's like those midweeks are going to actually be a massive deal when it comes to the committee. I really want to hear what they say about weekend matter, midweeks don't matter, or are they going to say, hey, Florida, they missed out, they just couldn't win enough midweeks. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're heading. That's the direction we're heading in right now.
Yeah. Well, right now, Florida has a huge upper hand. Like, Florida has another, like I said, basically a 2-game lead in the SEC standings on LSU. They also have a 11 spot higher RPI. Like 24, you're comfortably in. If they finish the year at 24 RPI, it is a no-brainer. They're probably going to be a 2 seed, which will be crazy, but
right.
No, yeah, they'll finish with the 2 seed. But if we're going to have this conversation, Ole Miss is right there too.
Ole Miss lost a heartbreaker 15 innings last night against Murray State.
That's a good point, though. Like, nobody's murmuring and wanting Ole Miss to get in. Like, nobody.
That's my point. Take away
RPI's right there with Florida. Florida stinks. But
take away LSU off that jersey.
Yeah.
Take away Ole Miss and LSU off that jersey. We're having a much different conversation. LSU is the benefit of the doubt every single time.
It's the Cags effect. I got to see Jack Cags play postseason baseball. Like, and which I agree. I want to see Jack Cags play postseason baseball. I also think that, like, putting in a team that's 2 wins above 500 in tournament is like a wild, like, precedent to set. Which, like, they just, which I agree, Dimitri. Their midweeks probably have been harder, but they also just haven't won any of them. Like, none of them. So it's like, well, but I mean, again, they do have the greatest college baseball player of all time. So I just, I'm sitting on both sides of the fence.
Anyway, I had one point I wanted to make before we move on to, get our picks in and stuff. But when I'm doing my bracket this year, looking at home run totals, looking at walk totals and everything, I am going to, most of the time, I'm going to just look at teams that have a stout bullpen and don't walk a lot of guys. That's all I'm going to look at, because when we get into regional, that 3-run homer and then another 3-run homer, back-breaking 3-run homer in the 7th inning, it's going to be the difference in so many of these games.
You can't wait for bracket season.
Runners on base.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I cannot wait for bracket season, dude. It's the best time of the year.
In the spirit of predicting, can we give ourselves a round of applause really quick? Look at those SEC standings. Outside of Kentucky, the 11.7 boys were all over the SEC this year. All 3 of our teams are in the hunt, man.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you bring up Kentucky. Like, obviously, like one of us picked I picked A&M. I think Jack picked Tennessee, and Dimitri
Detroit,
picked
Arkansas.
Arkansas, and they're like all three up there. But dude, right now Kentucky, they deserve like the number one national seed. You know what I mean? With the quad one wins,
Hundo P.
with first place in the SEC, and people are like refuse. If you put Arkansas's name on Kentucky's resume, it would be an absolute unanimous, no brainer decision to put them number one. But people are like Kentucky.
17-5 quad one.
Yeah,
That's
17
I
and
think
5 quad one is crazy.
that's
So
dominant. That is
yeah,
college football number one team in the country, dominant Alabama style, Nick Saban style. Like that's just pure dominant.
and I promise you, every SEC team will say, "Please give it to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Let them
Yep.
be the number one overall seed. We'll take the 2, 3, and 4 spot."
All right. Well, anyway,
Anyways, one more thing I want to do before we make our weekend series pick 'em. Um, are you guys down? The winner of this Georgia South Carolina series that's starting tonight, winner of the series gets to host.
Give it to him.
bearing any crazy setbacks on the final weekend, just
No, the
hypothetically
NCAA
speaking,
should just go ahead and make the announcement. The winner of this series gets to host a regional.
I love it.
I think, as South Carolina, I think if Georgia wins the series, no doubt. If South Carolina wins the series, they got to do a little bit more next weekend in Hoover, but pretty much yes, just a little bit more. But I think if Georgia wins the series on the road, absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this Thursday night game. South Carolina completely. I've done a 180. I've changed my tune on them. I called them the second worst SEC team after they lost that series to Ole Miss. I was like, dude, this team has no fire. I'm wrong, dude. They're fun to watch, and they do a little like on Fridays. They typically like piece it together. Got a little opener, 3 or 4 innings, and then Good usually comes in. They're just a fun team to watch, and with this whole thanks Kip thing that's going on, that fired them up a good bit. I don't know. I don't think they'll win the whole thing. Like I don't think they can win the whole College World Series, but like host a regional, get to a super.
Hot take.
I know South Carolina fans just want to get to Omaha. Like it's been so long. So
Hot take. South Carolina, if they host, I'll put it right now. Say it right now. If they host, they don't get out of their regional.
I don't hate that take just because I think they'll be like a 15-16 and they'll get the juggernaut. Like they'll send like a really tough 2-3. Hey, let me remind the boys really quick because I have been on there as a Palmetto State guy. I've been on their coattails all year. This was a team that was a game away from getting Omaha last year, and they just ran into like a much better Florida team in that super, a much better Florida team. They returned a lot of the
I
pieces.
mean,
When we were singing their downfall earlier this year, like we were in a position where Messina and Petrie were really struggling. Messina is the reigning SEC player of the week and just hit 2 more homers on Tuesday. Like they've just got this special play with a chip on your shoulder, like fuck you energy, where I could see them making a run. Like kind of like
all it
TCU.
takes is one of those Ethan Petrie first inning right center field homers, and they win those games 10 times out of 10.
Yep.
but you know what the dangerous thing about a team like that they're pissed off, they're playing with this like revenge tour attitude. One big loss takes a lot of wind out of the sail. It
So I'm
really hits you hard when you lose a game and you're like, "Fuck, dude, we've been talking so much shit. Now we just like it humbles you so fast."
I'd agree with you, but I even think back to me, like I felt like they proved to me they were the real deal off that Kentucky series. It was back and forth on Friday. They come away with a win. And then Saturday was kind of like a heart-wrenching loss in that like they felt like they just threw everything at them. Kentucky plays such a fun style of baseball, and like they just proved to have been the better team that Saturday. And then Sunday they came back and boat raced the shit out of them. So it's like, all right, like because I do agree with you. Sometimes those manic bipolar teams, like you take the highs of the highs and then a really quick low, and you go, well, what are they going to look like tomorrow? I mean, it's been a masterful job by Kingston and his staff because you're right, Ben. Like they got a lot of guys that don't necessarily want to go 2-3 times through the lineup. So they have gone to like a Tampa Bay Rays set where like they'll go to an opener, get 3 innings, and they don't let anybody in that lineup get comfortable in the SEC where they just go one guy at a time. And it's worked.
All I know is I hope to see a Clemson South Carolina Super Regional. I think Clemson wins that regional. I think they're just a better team. But man, just for the aesthetic
Could you
and just
imagine
seeing
Doug
that,
Creamore Stadium regional final, South Carolina Clemson, Super Regional Final, winner to Omaha?
yeah, I would take Clemson there. I think
Hey,
Clemson is a super underrated team, but wow, that would be fun.
Oh,
hey, here's another point I want to make. SEC losing record in conference play, you're usually safe. I really want to know what the committee does with a sub 500 Sun Belt record, Coastal Carolina. What do you do? Do you say we look at the Sun Belt as a premier baseball conference? We are going to allow a team that's sub 500 in the Sun Belt in the postseason.
Well, let's take a
I
look.
don't
Yeah, they're
know.
11
I
and
couldn't
13
guess.
right
I
now.
couldn't tell you right now. I could not guess.
11 and 13 right now. They do have Georgia State and Marshall, so like they will finish above 500. This
All right.
this
What if they
Clemson
finish?
midweek's big
What
for
if
them
they
too.
finish 500?
Look, all I'm saying is like Coastal's going to end up probably as a 3 seed, maybe like a week or two, but I don't want to see them in my regional. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
They've already gone through their cold spell here. Like they're about to heat back up. We know this offense. We know this team really well.
What about Florida? 2 seed, Coastal Carolina 3 seed, put their asses in the same regional with South Carolina.
Jeez. You throw them in like a Duke regional.
I know Florida can't go there, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Put
Yeah, it's
those
gonna be
motherfuckers
interesting.
together somewhere.
dude, that'd be like a pod in Omaha. Those 4 teams, that'd be like a pod in Omaha. Like that'd be crazy as hell. I love that.
Anyways,
But anyway, yeah.
do you guys want to make quick picks on Georgia, South Carolina? Because I do think that is probably the biggest series of the weekend. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we didn't put it in the weekend series pick 'em. But I'm going to take South Carolina at home. SEC home teams have done really well this year. I don't think they're going to pitch to Condon. Like I would be surprised to see him hit a homer this weekend. I really think they're going to bounce curveballs in the dirt and they're going to throw fastballs above his hands. Like he might be good enough to get some balls above his hands out. Maybe that's not a good approach, but
I,
I think he gets at least 3 intentional walks this weekend. At least.
I'll take
I'm
the over.
going to go with Georgia. I'm going to go with Georgia. I think I like them better. Ben, your comment about South Carolina still sticks in my head that you don't think they're a good team, and usually you're right. Usually we've been right.
No, I did a 180. I think they're a good team now.
No. But hold on. There's truth into your statement. You didn't think they were a good team. They've been playing well. I think they're going to start. I think I just have a feeling they're going to come back around. You're like, dude, I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I saw with my own eye. This is what I saw, and I think it's going to come back out in this weekend, next weekend, or in the postseason. Some point, what Ben saw about South Carolina is going to come true again.
No, dude, I'm usually wrong. I think I said the same thing about Ole Miss in 2022. I was like, this team sucks, and they ended up winning the whole thing. So
I'll tell you exactly when we're going to say it, Dimitri. South Carolina is a horrible team in Hoover. They are every year, even with some of their best teams, like even their national champion. They'll struggle in Hoover. They'll be fine. But in order to host, they have to take care of Founders Park this weekend. Their fans are rabid. The one thing that holds me up, as I've just ridden South Carolina all year, is that I'm really starting to fall in love with the Georgia bullpen. And it was like the giant question mark where I said that I think I said they sucked. I was like, I think Georgia Penn's not very good. They've got a couple weekend guys that kind of scare you, but outside of that, they're not very deep. I'm going to take South Carolina, but I think the Georgia Penn is going to be something to keep an eye on. I think it's going to be why they could make a big run in Hoover. And like if they lose this weekend, but make a push and go to a semi or a SEC championship game, like you got to give that team a host. And so I'm going Carolina, but man, the Georgia Penn's winning me over.
yeah, Wes Johnson's done an awesome job with Georgia's bullpen, and look, we all knew he would. He did the same thing with LSU on their run deep last year. So, all right, cool. Let's do our weekend series pick 'em. I'm gonna share my screen. We got a couple good ACC matchups. North Carolina State at Virginia, Clemson at Wake Forest. Then we get the battle of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, Fairfield at Niagara, both 16-2 in conference play. Northeastern travels down to Charleston. I think I might be in attendance in one of those games, possibly tomorrow night. I want to see this Northeastern team. I still think they're a dark horse to make it to Omaha. But this Charleston pitching staff's been incredible. A little SoCon action. Samford at UNCG. They are Samford 12-3 in the SoCon. UNCG 13-5, and then some Big Ten play. Our two Big Ten preseason favorites, Indiana and Nebraska. There's a 4-way tie, I think, in first place for the Big Ten, and this is two of them. So at Haymarket Park. So, anyways, we'll start here at the top. NC State at Virginia.
Hey,
Jack,
Ben.
go ahead and go first.
NC State, Virginia. I think I saw. I don't know if it was our ACC guys. If it was Monty Tyler, I can't remember who it was. So shout out to whoever released it. I guess Henry Ford, their stud, heart of the lineup guy, was in a walking boot earlier this week for Virginia. I think it was just precautionary. I do think he's going to play. I'm just like, I've been all over the roller coaster that is NC State this year. I think Eli Serrano is really good. Zach Cozart's starting to wake up and show everybody in the country why he's making a claim to be the best catcher. And I think our guy Sam Highfield goes and gets them a win early, goes to a rubber match. Give me the pack. I'm all on the pack this weekend.
Very good. Look, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit more, and this is probably a good sign for NC State fans. But Jack, you hit the nail on the head. This team is a roller coaster. Like sometimes they'll put up an 18 spot on your head, sometimes they'll get shut out. And man, I just can't figure it out. And I just think Virginia at home in May and in June is something that we've seen repetitively over like the last decade. It's similar to like Texas Tech. I know Texas Tech didn't come through for us a couple weeks ago, but there's something about this Cavaliers team at home late in the season that they just win baseball games. And I do not trust the Wolfpack right now. But again, this is probably a good thing for NC State fans that I'm picking Virginia here.
Give me Virginia at home. There's nothing to think about. It's May, like Texas Tech got their ass kicked after we talked about somewhere in Lubbock, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to do it again. I think we can go 1-for-1, 500 record on this narrative of a team at home in the month of May. Give me the Cavaliers at home. I don't think NC State's good enough and ready for this time of the year.
Jack, do you know if Aiden Teal is Kyle Teal's little brother? I imagine it is, but
It is. Yes, it
okay.
is.
Another
Yeah.
Teal there at Virginia. We had back-to-back Geloffs and now back-to-back Teals.
He's got a nasty hammer slider. I will say this about Virginia. I'm prepared to be wrong about these guys because I feel like they're just a walking super regional team. I feel like that was a game that I could get back in the standings because I do like State a little bit. But yeah.
Right. Hey, we did it for Georgia, South Carolina. I think the winner of this weekend series should be able to host. The ACC should come out and say this is one of our 5 hosts because they are both like on that border, the bubble to host or not. If NC State gets a big road series weekend series win, let them host. Let there be a postseason baseball there in Raleigh. Anyways, juggernaut of a matchup up here next. Clemson at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is another team I just cannot figure out this year. When I'm down on them, they play good. When I'm up on them, they play bad. Clemson, all reliable. The only time Clemson ever let me down was that 18-1 loss Friday night against Kennesaw, where I might have had an investment parlay of 8 teams that 7 of them hit. And Clemson was just
so tough, dude. That's
since
so
the first
fucking
inning.
tough.
I have forgiven the Clemson Tigers, though. I have forgiven them. I think they do go on the road. Give them a small ballpark like Wake Forest. I think they launched 15 homers this weekend. They might lose the Chase Burns game, but Burns does give up some homers as well. But give me Clemson here. I'm going to take old reliable. Steady Clemson.
Give me Eric Backich and the boys. Give me the Clemson Tigers on the road at Wake. I think Wake is a 1 week on, 1 week off type of team right now. Could that change in the next couple of weeks? Sure, but I'm not gonna do the guessing game right now. I'm just gonna go with, like Ben said, all reliable here. Give me the Tigers.
This is that weekend where I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I have casted both of these teams out because I have never been on the right side of them. And that's hard to do when Clemson's lost 10 games this year. Yet I've been on the wrong side, hypothetically, in every single. Now, I also just said that I was done with Wake Forest. I texted Ben and Dimitri after their weekend series loss. I was like, well, there's no way they lose in the rubber match. Not to this team. And then they get walked off, and I said, never. I'll never do it again. Well, 1 week later, I'm doing it again. Not at the couch. They don't lose at the couch Wake Forest. I'll take the Demon Deacons, and I'm prepared to get hurt.
Love that. They're also for the brand. They're for the Pencil Talk brand.
So for the brand.
Jack is for the brand right now, making sure we don't have any sweeps right now.
Yeah. Hey, our sweeps haven't been that bad. We've been
No,
fine.
they have. We've been kind of.
We were
we've been good.
pretty bad last week. I think I went 2-4 last week.
All right.
Anyway, I think you went 3-3.
3-3.
Yeah. All right. Fairfield at Niagara. The only stat nugget I have here: Fairfield 27-20. You're looking at it like, oh wow, okay. 16-2 in conference. Dude, they started the season 0-10 and got swept by your George Mason Patriots. So they're really 27-10 in their last 37 games. And it wasn't like they played this super hard non-conference schedule either. Like got swept by UNCG, got swept by James Madison, swept by George Mason, and then they split with St. Joseph. So they're playing all these first name, last name schools. But anyways, they've been playing really well in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference.
Is Greensboro a first name or a last name?
It's Greensboro is the last name.
So it's Uncle Greensboro? Is that what you're going for? Uncle Greensboro?
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm looking, I'm like, hey, I actually kind of like this Fairfield team. Like you start looking at their stats up and down, and you're like, wow, they play like pretty well-rounded baseball. But something else stood out to me. The Niagara, they're the Purple Eagles, I believe. Niagara Purple Eagles, yes. Great name. Dude, they're like 15-1 at home this year, which is nuts. And this is a home series. I know nothing about Niagara baseball, other than like a quick little stat research thing I did. Dude, I love them at home this week. I think they're by far the best team, top to bottom. They swept a Richmond team. I know it's A10, but like pretty solid non-conference sweep, 4 games. And dude, I just think they're a much better team. So give me the Purple Eagles at home, where they're like 14-1 this year.
Guys, give me the Niagara team it's May. Forget that part. Pretend it says in May. Give me Niagara. They are going to win this conference, and they are going to take down the Fairfield Stag. Give me Niagara.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, a little Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. Niagara in June? They've been playing June, boys.
It's in May. Niagara in May.
Get Niagara to playing some college baseball in June. That's what you really should have said. I think the boys, Purple Eagles. I've got a couple factoids for you, doing some research as well. Ben, they're a home team. Do you know what the name of their stadium is called?
Oh no, I have no clue. I know nothing.
The Bobo. So if that doesn't make you fall in love with their home ballpark, the Bobo, kind of like the Dojo, but the Bobo. I didn't know a ton about these guys going in, but we're a mid-major pot. We love the small man. We love the little guy. Niagara just won 30 games for the first time in the history of its program. So they're kind of on a historical standard and setting a new precedent of ball at the Bobo. Sorry, alliteration's tough. But then I did some deeper diving. I got a young man by the name of Eric Radizak. Eric is a Minnesota guy. He was a 2-sport stud. He was a Minnesota hockey player, but he had nowhere to play out of high school. Not to say the state of Minnesota isn't just shooting out insane baseball talent. If you think about Maurer, Morneau, all those guys. But he goes to San Diego out of high school. San Diego. Played club baseball his freshman year. He was a club baseball guy, and he raked. So he goes and plays at I think it was Arizona Western College, a D2 school. And then obviously he transfers into Niagara this year. Guys, he's hitting .418 with 12 homers and 58 RPIs this year. 2 years ago, he was in club baseball. Give me Niagara. I fell in love with the Eagles and the Bobo. I'm all in.
I knew we could always rely on Jack on some little inside story of some random player from bumfuck America. He always comes in with the scoop.
That's an awesome story, though. Club baseball.
Fell in love with the kid. Are you serious? Thank you, Dimitri. I appreciate it. That was nice.
We need a regional at the Bobo. Also, Bobo just reminds me of
Niagara in June. We need it. We need an AQ bid from Niagara. They're going to play in June. That gift meme is going to go viral.
Manifestation.
Love that. Speaking of Bobo, I wonder if Tommy White ever kissed Corey's Bobo. hitting him in the head. Remember that interview? He's like, "Man, I
Fellas,
just got a big old bobo on my head."
let's keep it moving here.
All right, we got two more here. I know Dimitri's got to run in 10 minutes, but Northeastern at Charleston. Look, this one I'm gonna let Jack start off here because I do have reasons for both, but this is his bread and butter. Like this is Jack's alley. CAA in Charleston in his backyard. Go for it, kid.
This is gonna hurt the heart, man. They're both so for the brand. Did you guys see what Northeastern did to UConn earlier this week? By the way,
Oh, dude, stomped
they
him.
hit 8 homers. Mike Sirota, we said he's been struggling a little bit. He's got the average up over 260, and he hit 2 on Tuesday. Tyler McGregor, the T-Mac man, he hit 3 in his first 3 at bats in the 3rd inning. He had
Yeah.
6 innings to go get 4 instead of the run rule. Alex Lane, who's been maybe one of the best DH and first baseman in the like, they're really good, man. And again, a kid in Wyatt Scotty, who's like, I believe he's top 10 in the country in strikeouts per 9. And walks per 9. They're just such an interesting team because like Mike Glavin and his squad is going to send out a group of guys and you know exactly where you're going to get. Every 3 games, you know exactly what you're going to get out of the Huskies. But you'd be damned if I wasn't going to talk about the Cougs a little bit. Will Dorton, the pitching coach of the College Charleston, Chad Holbrook, who's got 2 national championships, who played in Omaha as a player at North Carolina, said this is maybe the best coaching job he's ever seen. The College of Charleston last year lost Ty Good to South Carolina, who's balling out on Fridays for the Gamecocks.
Mhm.
They lost Trey Pooser, who's the Saturday starter for the Kentucky Wildcats, who was a Cougar last year. Those are 2 SEC guys. Oh, and then Ho-Hum lost maybe the best closer in the history of the program, William Pribbett, who was an 8th-round draft pick, like a 97-mile-per-hour fastball. They lost all those guys. Yet this bullpen and this rotation has been maybe without question one of the best in the history of the program. They're top 10 in ERA. I think it's like at 3.3 right now. Their offense is really good. Avery Neves is the reigning CAA player of the week. He's a D3 transfer who's hitting at the top of the lineup. Guys, he went.
Yeah, I saw he went like 8 for 8 last week with like 5 extra base hits.
No, you're close. You want to try again? 8 for 8, 8 extra base hits. He didn't hit a
8 extra base hits.
He hit a fucking single last weekend. What are we doing? These guys are unbelievable. I flip a coin, play rock, paper, scissors. I can run through the numbers. Trotter Harlan just tied for second in the history of the program with doubles. Man, I'm split. You could tell I'm passionate about this one. I think both of these teams are going to get at-large bids if Wilmington wins it. I'll take the Cougs. I'll stick in the backyard. Sorry, Coach Clavin, but I'll stick with the Cougs.
You know, Northeastern burned me once.
Give me so here's what it came down to. Northeastern was my darling team. They were my team that I was like, ooh, I love this team. I'm gonna ride with them. Charleston 54 RPI. They need this series for RPI and at-large purposes. Charleston's half a game back of UNC Wilmington in the CAA standings. This series at home for Charleston, everything is lining up for me to take the Cougs at home. Like I just they're hungrier. There's more on the line for them. They've got everything in front of them. Give me Charleston at home.
That was the exact point that I had for Charleston here.
Yeah.
And I was going to come in and say, like, this is almost like the biggest must-win series for Charleston. You have everything lined up right in front of you. These are quad 1 games against Northeastern. You're at home. You're still in the fight for a CAA regular season title because you have the tiebreaker over UNC Wilmington. Boys, I think we're gonna have to go sweep here. And Northeastern did burn me once. I think it burned you guys too when they played UNCW at home.
Yeah.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, I think the 3 times we featured Northeastern on a weekend series pick'em, they've lost. They lost to Arizona that week 1. They lost against UNCW. Give me Charleston. I'm gonna go Charleston. But look, it would not surprise me one bit if Northeastern goes out there and puts up 15 runs a game and wins the series.
I'll tell you one thing about the College Charleston too. They're statistically speaking the oldest team in the country in Division I baseball. Like they've got 24, 25-year-olds on this team. Like they're an old savvy group. Like a guy like Kevin Madden who played at 2 Power 5 teams has made his like 3rd stop. They're an older team. Like I think veteran experience helps them this weekend.
Yeah. All right, we got to go quick these last 2. Dimitri's got to run. Samford at UNCG. Look, I'm torn, boys. Like this is my bread and butter.
You want me to leave this one off?
Yeah, you go ahead and lead it off.
There's only two teams that win this conference. Forget the years that these two teams didn't win it. They don't help my narrative, so we're going to pretend those years didn't happen. Either Mercer wins the SoCon or Samford wins the SoCon. Samford only wins the SoCon when Mercer can't win it. Yeah. Give me Samford Bulldogs on the road in Greensboro. I don't think they lose the series. When there's no Mercer in front of them, it's easy for them. They win the series. The only people that stop Samford is Mercer, and they're not here to do it. So give me Samford. They're going to go on their way to win this conference, starting with the series win over Greensboro.
Yeah. Look, Samford was the automatic qualifier last year out of the SoCon. They won those 3 games in one day to win the SoCon tournament. UNCG won the SoCon tournament 2 years ago, and they went to that Georgia Southern Regional. Look, I think both of these teams are good enough to win a game or two in a regional. Samford, I think, won 2 games last year. But, like, there's one thing about UNCG's home ballpark, and, like, Wake Forest fell for the trap this year. Samford's a very similar team. It's hard to hit home runs there. It is a huge ballpark in downtown Greensboro, and UNCG usually plays very, very well at home because they're not like this huge slugfest team that tries to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Like they put doubles in the gap, triples in the gap. I'll take UNCG, another huge home series for them. So give me UNCG.
While Dimitri was talking, my girlfriend from the Wims actually agreed with it. She was like, "Yo, can I make this pick for you?" She wants Samford. She thinks Coach Tony is an absolute G, kind of like Tony P. I say not so fast though. UNCG, the Spartans. She might break up with me over a mid-major pick. That's fine. I'm sticking with my guns. Tough to hit homers out of UNCG ballpark without question every year. Yet let me introduce you to Caleb Cozart, who's got 22, 71 RBIs and slugging 838 for the Spartans. Give me UNCG. He's an anomaly, kind of a unicorn. Baseball is.
Tell Natalie we're homies now.
6'5", 245. Natalie says, yes, she's a homie for life, I'm being told. Rizgod. Rizgod and Natalie. Dang it. I'm screwed, boys. Hell of a run, Nat.
Yeah. It was fun while it lasted, but Rizgod's gonna swoop in there and get it.
I need Natalie to send a shotgun, a Bud Light shotgun when Samford wins the series this weekend. I'll return with one. See a shotgun, send a shotgun.
Love it for a shotty. Absolutely.
All right, Indiana at Nebraska. Look, boys, I got to stick with my guns here. I picked Indiana before the season. I have a write-up that they're going to win the Big Ten. I think they're clicking right now on all cylinders. This is a team that I think will be dangerous if they get in the postseason. Very veteran team, similar to Charleston, old guys. I know this is at Nebraska, and Nebraska just lost an absolute heartbreaker in the midweek. They gave up like 8 runs in the last 2 innings to South Dakota State, lose. So vibes are not high. Give me Indiana all day, every day. Possible sweep here, boys.
Heartbroken on a Tuesday, hearts repaired on the weekend. Give me the Huskers at home, Haymarket Park. Lincoln is going to get rowdy. Give me the Nebraska. I think they're going to win the Big Ten. Ben, I know you were on Indiana, but I know deep down inside you're like, dude, Nebraska's going to win the series. But for content purposes, you have to stick with your gut here of Indiana. I know you really want to take Nebraska deep down inside.
Go Big Red. I don't know, man. I have a question. I know we're trying to go fast here. What is the tie for Indiana? That's going to answer basically my question.
They tied somebody in the midweek. I'll look it up right now.
So they were just cool with taking a tie.
It was because of light delay. Let's see.
Well, I'd rather. Wait, who are you talking about? Who had the tie?
Indiana's got a tie on their record.
Oh yeah. They
Ball State 7-7. They played 13 innings on a Wednesday, a couple Wednesdays ago.
Hashtag not gritty for not finishing it out. I'd rather lose than tie. I'll take Nebraska. They're hitting 292. They're throwing a 4.46 ERA. They're playing all 3 phases of the game well. I was all over Indiana, especially after that first week. I still think Tyler Sherney's really, really good pro prospect. I'll take the Cornhuskers. I think they're the deeper team. Big Red.
All right. Well, there we have it. Everybody get your picks in. If you're in the weekend series, pick them. I know we have 2 survivors left in the survivor pool. Guys that have picked the weekend series winner every single week. Shout out to those guys. It probably is going to come down to this week like last year. But anyways, we got to run. Jack's got a girlfriend in town. Dimitri's got probably 5 girlfriends in the city of or country of Italy.
Yeah, and it's about to be 6. It's about to be 6.
It's about to be 6. Yeah, check Natalie's flight logs. Make sure she doesn't book anything to Italy. And yeah, let's have a good weekend, boys. We'll be back Sunday night or Monday, whatever the schedule allows for. And let's win our investments as well this week. Big week ahead. So y'all take care.
Hey,
And
peace out, listeners.
guys in about
See you
4
on Sunday
days.
night, Monday. Have a damn weekend.